Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Bhatti, a fourth-generation homeopath with over 20 years of professional experience in this field of healing. In the Homeopathy Health Show, I'll be talking all things homeopathy and natural, with guest interviews, tips and advice, and answering some of your questions. Homeopathy is truly a unique complementary system of healing suitable for all ages, young and old. I'd love to hear from you and welcome your questions on homeopathy and how it can or has helped you. Feel free to email me at health@liketreatslike.co.uk or visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk for more information. Whilst you're there, take a look at the Knowledge Academy and blog section, where you will find interesting information. Both sections are growing day by day, so always check back. So let's begin today's show on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio, real feel-good radio. Hello, I hope you're well and in good health. Well, it's certainly been a wonderfully busy week, and I say wonderful because I've had the opportunity, again, by the grace of God, to help many patients with their health concerns, and that's always something that I treasure, and indeed I will treasure until the end of my days as such. I find actually the weeks are becoming so, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, didn't I? The weeks just fly by, and what's even more strange now is that even the days seem to fly by. So there's never enough hours in the day to achieve all the objectives, unless, of course, I cut back on sleep. But I'm not going to do that. As you have to sleep, you have to recharge the batteries, as they say. Now, moving on, today I'm delighted to speak to Pat Aherne, who is known to many on social media as the Homeopathic Farmer. What a great name, isn't it? That's I love it. I love it. Homeopathic Farmer. Now, Pat Aherne is actually a conventional farmer, but he does have a rather unconventional outlook. Pat is located in what is probably the last piece of farmland between Cork Airport and Cork City in the Republic of Ireland. He holds the title of being the last farmer in his parish, which was actually once a very thriving farming community and home to the famous CMP dairies that was set up by local farmers to produce the first ever bottle of pasteurized milk in Ireland in the 1950s. Well, there's a historical fact for you. Now, Pat owns a herd of 90 cows under the prefix Anna Maria, which is named aptly after his two daughters. How nice. Pat is a third generation on the farm, and his grandmother bought the farm in 1958. Pat's father, Patrick, took over in 1968, and Pat took over in 2014. So, Pat, as a fourth generation homeopath to a third generation farmer, delighted to have you on the podcast. Who thought that would happen, eh?
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Atiq, for the opportunity. And thank you for the introduction. Yes, without a doubt, I never thought when I started down this road of using alternative medicine, and in particular homeopathy, that one day I would be sitting opposite a fourth generation homeopath, which is without doubt a great honor. But I suppose I started into it there about maybe by pure chance 13 years ago. I had a major outbreak of mastitis in the herd. Standard procedure: pump the cows with drugs and antibiotics and tubes up into their udders.
Is it common, Pat? Is it common for mastitis?
Mastitis would be one of the greatest sores, or shall we say, in farming. It is a common problem. It's more, I would say, as I've realized with homeopathy, it's more a stress-related factor. Whether stress, the way the world markets are with farming and driving down the price of food, the only option farmers, like most businesses, they have blinkers on. They don't look left and right of other options. So to a farmer, they will see that the only option to literally maintain a business is more numbers. So then you have more numbers inside in a tighter space, and like literally packing people into a city, there's going to be issues. And in a herd, there is a social structure, there is stress factors, there's the shy cow, the confident cow, the bully cow, and there's the family groups, and one family will keep away from another family. There's all that structure, but when it becomes a quagmire in big herds, that whole structure breaks down. And in a way, with the modern medicine of antibiotics, it has allowed us as a society to have huge herds that we didn't have 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And it was great. Antibiotics were amazing. That's what has created these 1,000 to 10,000 cow herds. And literally, I had seen recently a video, and your man literally had his antibiotic room. And he said, this is the nerve center of my 10,000 cow herd in America. And he said, I don't want to be the guy who's going to pull the antibiotics and be responsible for the death of 2 billion people. And I was kind of going, but the 2 billion people are going to die anyway because of antimicrobial resistance, the amount of drugs being pumped in. So, like, even if we reduce it down to the 100 cow farmer, it's still, the blinkers are on, they don't look left or right, and it's just pump drugs into the animal. And that's where I was in 2010. And at one stage, I was treating 16 cows out of 21 cows in a period of 3 weeks for mastitis. And I just said, never again. It was just stress levels on both man and beast was just too much. And financially, it was a massive hole in it as well. And at one stage, I said to myself when I was coming into the parlour one morning, I'm actually going to war against nature, and I'm not even winning the battle. And hence, I just said there had to be another way. There just had to be. I'm not doing it again. And it was just, without a doubt, I would say, it's your guardian angel. It's by the grace of God. It is literally, I had no planning in going to my local agricultural shop this particular day. It was out of my way. I had other jobs to do. And it was just literally my little angel saying, no, you've got to go to the shop. And I went to the farm store. And here was this guy selling these bottles of water. And I was like, what's this? And he said, it's homeopathy. And I was like, what's homeopathy? And I got a very basic explanation, and it will help you. So eventually, after a very hard sell over a number of weeks, he eventually managed to hand the bottles over to me. I put it into action. And at the time, I was doing monthly milk recording, where a guy will come in, take samples of milk during your milking of each individual cow. And over a matter of months, the cell count started stabilizing and went dramatically dropped off down to a very healthy under 200,000 of a cell count, white blood cell count. And once a cow is underneath 200,000, she's considered healthy. But my cows were actually going below 100. They were going below 50,000. Like, they were completely healthy. And I was fascinated with this. I was like, wow. And this was in the very early days of Google, so information was very sparse. And such as my lack of knowledge of homeopathy, I genuinely believed that homeopathy was just for animals. There was nothing else. And every time I went to Google, it was all about these humans, but I wasn't focused on humans.
all about these humans.
Yeah.
I like that. I see where your priorities lie there. Thanks for that. That makes me feel so much better.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm looking after the cows that are producing the milk for the humans.
Yeah,
so
okay.
there's it's a full circle. And so I had no choice but to be reading up on human cases and human stories, and I was like kind of going, wow, okay. And eventually I stumbled across then cauliflorinum, and that it was very good for regulating the contractions of birth. And I then started thinking to myself, I says, hold on now a second. If I could make birth a less traumatic event, because I was after experiencing the birth of my thankfully, and without doubt, it's a great honour to witness the birth of your children arriving into this world. So I saw the three of them arriving in and seeing the trauma that's involved in it. And I said, if I could actually take the trauma out of the birth of the calf, then would the calf, if it was subject to disease, would be more resilient than having a traumatic birth. And it turned out, I just was reading down through one of these articles, how there's a blue highlighted line, and if you click on that, and it led into some study that was done in America, where, because I was trying to find out what was cauliflinum, which is, I think, corrected black cohort, which is in America, and American Indians used it regularly as part of their birthing for their women. And it found that for the American Indian, they had a higher death at birth rate, but they had a dramatically low post-birth issues compared to Western women who had a very low, and we pride ourselves in this, a very low death at birth rate, but very high post-birth issues. And I said, maybe it's because the trauma is removed out of the birth, and hence that then there's issues. So I said, if I could do that, of course, then there was more reading. Eventually, I stumbled across a course then in England or should we say, an organisation in England. I was like, okay, the advantages of I living next to Cork Airport, just jump on a plane, get over to England. But then, how do I get from the airport to this place? So it was, I think by September 16, I had a couple of issues where I had a calf, a 9-month-old calf had broken her leg, and only for homeopathy. The vet had held out no hope for the calf, and I used homeopathy on her, and that was September 16. And today she was only just being served for next. She's just been she was breeding today, so she's going into her 8th lactation, and this was a cow or a heifer calf that a vet had dismissed. And I was saying that, well, with homeopathy, she will be able to continue. And her leg completely sealed up or healed up. The joining was just on the growth blade, and it wasn't going to heal. It healed, and as I said, 8 years later, six years later, she's still here. So
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's amazing to see that, especially with animals as well. And you mentioned cauliflinum, which is, I found myself personally that you're absolutely right here with as far as birth trauma is concerned, that pulsatilla and cauliflinum actually make a very powerful and effective unit for minimizing the trauma, but also the pain associated with giving birth. And I have something actually, something that's called an easy labor pack, which I refer for patients who actually come for this specific reason, and it works wonderful. The severity is reduced by at least 60%, and that actually makes giving birth, of course, less traumatic, but for want of a better word, enjoyable, as in you're looking forward to it because you're not in so much pain and anxiety and, of course, fear.
Oh, yes, and I can see that with the cows. And another thing that farmers report back with cauliflinum is it completely reduces by up to 95% nighttime births. So here you are in your calving period of your year, and a farmer is getting the most valuable thing of all, and as you said at the start of your podcast there, sleep. You manage to get a night's sleep. You get, like, whatever it is, they just don't seem to calve from anything from 12 midnight to around about 6, 7 o'clock. It just kicks off then for a few hours, and you're there in the yard, and everything just like a fight. As I was told day one when I did the course in eventually I jumping back and forth here, but eventually I ended up going to England to do what was called homeopathy at Welly level. And it was a week-long residential course, a once-off course. I suppose back then they never knew where this was going to lead to, but on the very first day of the herd, the very first day of the course, the head tutor says farmers make the best homeopaths because we're with our patients 24/7. And if we're not with them, we're thinking about them. And if we're not thinking about them, we're dreaming about them.
Interesting. And true.
It is. And she said, you as farmers already have this skill set that's required of homeopaths, is observation. But because of antibiotics, it's become dormant. And with homeopathy, you're going to reawaken this skill that your grandfathers had. More than likely, your fathers lost the skill, or your parents, let it be your fathers or mothers, whichever, has lost this skill, but we're going to reawaken this skill. And she said, once you get it going, it is like literally having a finely tuned orchestra. And it's just sit back and listen to that orchestra playing, which is your herd of cows just functioning beautifully, post-calving, pre-calving, in the maternity wing of the shed, calving away nice and peacefully, no stress involved, calves up in the nursery being minded, and in contact. But then on the course, and as you mentioned that you have your easy calving or your easy birth combination remedies. Well, in that course, I learned how you can put remedies together, and with the help of a homeopathic vet I had in the locality, which I hadn't actually, I was buying remedies from another guy further up the country, not realizing that I actually had a homeopathic vet only 50 miles away from me.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
So I contacted him when I came back from the course, and we put together a plan. I said, I want to dramatically improve my fertility in the herd. That's my bugbear. I said, I want to take the stress out of it. I want everything to run smoothly. And he went, came back, as I said, came back from the course, and literally there's Pulsatilla, Aherne AKA, Bellis Pirellis, your Colifolinum, Pulsatilla was a Glycinium, which is more for the more anxious first-timer heifers, and that's given about 6 weeks, maybe twice a week for 6 weeks, and right through until literally the last cow calves. And then, of course, there's other remedies go into the water, which is Urticaurine 6C at drying off. That just, whatever it is, it just helps them to switch off. So they're not being all dried off in the one day, they're dried off over a number of weeks. So it's, I would look at my herd of cows as literally a group of people or my employees. And it's like literally saying to your employee, well, listen, thanks very much for working with me for the past year, but I won't require you now anymore for a number of weeks, let you go away on holidays. And they're put up into the other corner of the shed, but they can hear the milking parlour going in the morning as a case of, but why are my friends going to the parlour? Why am I here with these other group of girls or whatever? And even though everything is laid on for them, but and what happens is with the stress is they will, they'll be bagging down or springing down. They'll be holding onto their milk because they're not able to dry off. Now, that is the beauty of antibiotics. You just go along and you just tube them so that when the stress comes on, the antibiotic is there to dramatically reduce any infection that they will get, again, from stress. But now those antibiotics have been, I think it's this past January, they're now officially banned. You want to have a solid reason to be able to give a dry cow antibiotic to a healthy cow. You can give her an antibiotic if she's over 200,000. To be honest, I wouldn't. She want to be over 1 million for me to be giving her an antibiotic at this stage, because I can now mitigate my issues with homeopathy. But you give her at the day of drying off, or as I refer to going on their holidays, they're giving Urticaurine and giving it once a day, every day for about 4 days until the last cow had arrived in for being dried off. And literally, I would be close on 98% non-antibiotic drying off, which is a dramatic reduction from 100%. antibiotics. And it's amazing to see Atiq urine 6C just literally drying them up. They just soak up. The stress is taken out of the event. And that's a major event, as I said. Like, it's like literally being told, sorry, you've lost your job. Thanks very much. We don't require you no more. That's the way I would look at it psychologically from a cow's point of view.
I think also, though, Pat, as you're sort of explaining this and the beauties of homeopathy, but also the fact that for farmers, for you as a farmer who's out there every single day, really working hard, and I think, again, round of applause to all farmers across the country, around the world, because the work that is done is incredible, and I just don't think there's enough appreciation for that. But because of the reassurance that you have now with homeopathy and what it can help your herd with, it also helps you because it reduces that stress and that trauma, which means you actually get more done. You're not spending your time worrying frantically, oh, will it work? What about this? And what about that? What if the antibiotic, God forbid, doesn't work? Or whatever treatments you're on, because you've experienced homeopathy, right, I'm going to give this remedy or that remedy or whatever it will be for whatever situation. And that's it. And you move on rather than stop and think, okay, let's wait for it to work. You just know it's going to start working and you carry on with whatever it is that you need to do.
Oh yes, without a doubt. And like, I've had cows with mastitis, high temperatures, like a cow's normal temperature is 101.5. And I actually had a cow, she was calved for 3 weeks, and she would have been calved around the start of March. This is the end of March going into April, which is just at the point of the equinox. The days are as long as the nights. And the temperature was going from 15 degrees during the day down to 2. So it's hard cold, and I'm on a northeast facing hill. So the cows were going out at night time. At this stage, the weather was good, and they'd be out from around about the end of March. They'd be out day and night. But this heifer, who was just after giving birth for her first time, and she had a very hard spring. Her udder was very hard, and she just wasn't milking out, which then, of course, created the situation of mastitis. And came to the field one morning, and there she was standing there, and you could see the poor animal was literally going into shock. She was like, first of all, the shock of being cold, and the shock of what's happening to me. I'm getting sick here. So she came in with the herd. I milked her. She had no temperature. She seemed to have milked out clean. I wasn't too concerned. And as I said, no temperature. So off she went. There was no bother with her. That evening she came in, checked her again. She was last in. I was like, okay, and checked her. No, she had a temperature. And as I checked the temperature again about maybe 20 minutes later, and it was going up. So we're going from 101.5 up to 102, 3, 4. And eventually I was then giving her the remedies for mastitis. At this stage, I could see that she was beginning to come down with mastitis. So I'd give her the remedy of being your belladonna for heat and a high temperature, bryonia for a hard quarter, swelling, inflammation, and carbo veg to pump the oxygen into the blood to get the blood flowing, to get the milk going. Atiq urine flow of milk. Sorry, BBU is to get the milk, increase the flow of milk. And I was doing that, but I was doing it in single remedy. You can do it in combination, but at this stage I was going with single remedy administration. Temperature was up now at this stage at about 106. And the animal was standing there chewing the cud. And I was kind of going, but you've a high temperature. I said, this animal is going to drop dead now in front of me with a heart attack at this stage. I mean, she's literally cooking. And so eventually I text into my group, because we have a group of farmers now on WhatsApp, and I just text in and I said, look, having a problem here. I can't get this temperature down. So thankfully one of the vets replied back. He says, should not look at your, if I'm correct in the word, modalities, as in, have you not looked at the weather? And I was like, yeah, it's cold. And he goes, yeah, but the temperature's swinging so much that she's gone into shock of the weather. And when did it happen? I explained the whole story. And he goes, that's it. She has a fear of you putting her out into the cold night. So give her aconite. I said, what's aconite got to do with mastitis? And he goes, fear. She's the fear of the cold. Take away the fear and she will heal herself. The temperature will come down. And I gave her just one spray of aconite into her vulva because it's instant into the mucous membrane. It's instant into the body. And within 20 minutes, the temperature was 106, 105.8, dropping. And within, I'd say, about an hour and a half, she was down to normal. Inside, drinking, put her back into the thing, drinking water, eating all around her, and never again got mastitis after that. And that was 3 years ago.
You know, that is proof. Like, you know, we often homeopaths get asked, and I suppose not just homeopaths, actually, anyone who practices any sort of natural form of medicine. It could be anything from Ayurvedic to Chinese system. It could be, of course, homeopathy, or anything else, herbal medicine as well. But the proof is always in the pudding, but it's also what you have seen happen with your own eyes. And that's the real testament of homeopathy. The testimony of the efficacy of homeopathy is in those who actually use it and see these changes and are witness to the changes. And it's just amazing. This story is so interesting. And just by treating something on a mental, emotional level, the body restores itself and it goes back to how it's supposed to be.
I suppose my experience, I've seen it working on animals. And in relation to aconite, I actually had an incident myself. Then Cork Airport is a lovely little airport, but it's built on top of a hill, and it's notoriously known for that if the pilot doesn't understand the landing, it literally the plane will just drop out of the sky.
I'm not travelling to Cork anytime soon. I can promise you that. After that one, no, I'll drive across the border. Thanks.
But it's literally the Ryanair, the world famous Ryanair landings. They just
I don't care. Doesn't matter.
No, this will work now with your homeopathy. Make sure you bring this with you.
We'll push you out with a parachute, off you go.
But no, anyway, it was just one day we landed on the airplane or landed on the ground, and literally he banged it off the ground. I was like, oh, and you could actually hear the groan of other passengers kind of going, oh, that was a rough one. And that was fine. And homeopathy and us humans and everything in this world, we function on vibration, we function on a frequency. So that landing had thrown me out slightly, the slightest little bit of a shift. But of course, at the time, I didn't realize it. And over the next couple of years, as I was getting on flights, I was slowly building an anxiety and of flying. I was like, God, this can't be possible. Why do I have a fear? Now, of course, I didn't connect it to my incident at the time. And eventually I was I would be having sleepless nights. I go to the airport, palpitations. I would go to the toilet before I'd leave home. When I arrived at the airport, go to the toilet. Even though I didn't need to go to the toilet, I'd go to the toilet, go through the whole procedure, sit down, read a book. 2 minutes later, stand up. I need to go to the toilet, go back down, even though I didn't need to go to the toilet. I'd go through the whole motions, and then you go to your queue for your gate. Did I go to the toilet? But I can't go to the toilet because I'm now in the queue. And this was constantly building up. Eventually, you'd take off from Cork Airport. That was fine. It was a little bit of the fear would be okay. And landing again, bit of a fear, more fear of the landing. But it was landing into Cork Airport. It literally, I would be holding onto the armrests of the seat and literally kind of going, is he going to make it? Are we going to land? Are we going to run out of runway? Literally cold sweats, palpitations. And it wasn't, again, eventually, that was over. This was happening over a number of years. And eventually then going on holidays with my young family. And the last thing I wanted to show my kids was that I was beside myself with fear of flying. And I was trying to keep it together. And eventually I said, aconite. I'll use aconite. So I use aconite. And amazingly, I didn't have to go through the procedure of getting up and down and walking and checking my bags, going to the toilet several times before getting on the plane. And am I sitting on the aisle seat just in case I need to go to the toilet, and so on. Now, the takeoff was no problem. The landing and the takeoff from the other airport was no problem. But then landing back into Cork Airport, I literally nearly passed out. And I was literally holding like this on the seat on the plane. And my son turns to me and goes, "Gee, you're not enjoying yourself, are you?" And I was like, going to go, and literally my head, eyes popping out of my head, sweat, my hair soaking, shirt stuck to me. And I just said, never again am I going through that. So then it was just playing away. And as I said, farming next to the airport, see the planes coming in and going out. And I going, I can't go up in the plane again like that. I can't do that again. And I said, okay, it wasn't that kind of, I didn't have a fear. But then I was using AAA remedy for TB testing on the herd, just to the fear, the anxiety, and the anticipation of the test. Suddenly clicked at me. I says, I didn't have a fear of flying. I had the anticipation of the landing of the flight. It's arsenicum. And what's one of the provings of arsenicum is things go to SH1T. And you have an urge of going to the toilet and the whole lot, and your whole life is falling apart. I says, no, I'm going to cover myself, and I'll take AAA before the flight. And did that, and I can honestly say they could land the plane on its roof into Cork Airport for all I care. Not a bother. And no fear of flying, gone. And that was just on literally one small bottle of water before the flight and during the flight. And after that, I haven't looked back since. If an air hostess, and if it was allowed to be integrated as part of your protocol of managing your passengers on the plane, that, okay, we have a passion here going thing, and getting a little bit edgy, I just put a few drops into the water, so who's to know, which I know is highly illegal, but a few drops into the water, sir, here's a glass of water, here, madame, here's a glass of water, problem resolved.
I was actually thinking, whenever I don't know if you've had this experience, but generally you have the stewardess or steward during a certain time in the aircraft, and they walk through the aisle and they spray, the air freshener. And that usually ends up just choking you anyway, because it's so strong. But hey, here's an idea, isn't it? Would you just spray a nice homeopathic or batch flower remedy? Everyone will be nice and happy when they land. Customs will love it, everyone's so receptive and delighted to meet them, Give them a big hug. Thank you very much. Please take a look at my suitcase. And you'll probably be arrested because you were so forceful of someone making sure that they check your luggage rather than trying to run. Now, from one interesting story, and you've had your fair share, I have to say, to another, you sadly had a farm accident, and I think your finger was cut off, wasn't it? The top of it.
Well, it was after, I think here in Ireland and the UK, we had a very harsh spring 18. We had the very heavy snowfall. And usually most dairy farmers in the spring would lose at least 14 pounds weight during the calving period. But this particular spring, I'd say there was an extra 14 pounds knocked off as well. So the old pants is falling down, and I said to myself, right, I need to tighten my belt here a bit more, but I had no more no more holes in the belt, so I needed to punch a hole in the belt. And I said, I'll go up to the local shopping centre, just a couple of miles up the road from me after my breakfast to get myself a new belt. Now, as it just so happens, the actual university hospital is across the road from the shopping centre. So I got out my Stanley blade knife, and I was trying to, while holding the knife in my left hand, I was trying to punch a hole through the leather belt, and ended up creating a slingshot, and the knife literally slipped on the belt, and the knife flung from my left hand and managed, in the blink of an eye, to cut the top off one of my left fingers and cut two tendons in the finger next to it. Which, as some people are as the nurse was saying to me, you were holding the knife in your left hand, and you managed to do this damage in your left hand. I know, and I said, don't ask. Don't ask. But
it happens.
it happens. And she said, I've seen a lot of accidents, she said, but this is one of the unusual ones. And so anyway, instead of going to the shopping centre, I ended up across the road in the hospital. And at the same time, when the accident actually happened, I went straight up to my farm homeopathic kit, and I took aconite 1M for shock. I took, I think it was something, whichever is the remedy to help stop the bleeding. Anyway, I was taking the couple of remedies, and at the same time, here was my hand literally, and I was kind of going, what am I after doing? And I was trying to pour cold water on it and so on, and ended up in the hospital. And I'm literally looking at the top of my finger, and literally I kind of going, I just lost a part of myself here. And I said, stop thinking like this. I said, it's ignitia for that straight away, because that you've lost something. And then the nurse said, right, we need to operate on your finger because to tie up the two tendons, because if you don't, your finger will freeze in one position. And I says, all right, this is what if I just didn't bother with the operation? I said, she said, well, to be honest, she said, worst case scenario, best case scenario is that you won't be able to close your hand into a fist properly. In the worst case scenario, you will be left with your finger frozen in the universally recognized one finger position. And I was like, all right, okay, I think you got my attention.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
And I said,
I'm sorry. No, for those who are just listening to the audio, we're obviously I'm talking to Pat, and there is we're talking over Zoom, and there's a video link, so I won't tell you what gesture he just made.
But it's universally recognized.
Yes. But anyway, moving on.
So anyway, she got my attention. It's okay, yeah, we'll do the operation and so on, and you'll be laid up for 5 weeks. I was like, 5 weeks in the springtime, like that? It's just that. But as I said, she got my attention. So anyway, they did the operation and did the physio. But of course, I went straight on to my, not just my homeopath, my homeopathic vet. And I said, right, okay, I'm going to have to use belladonna, arnica, hypernicum for nerve injury, and so on, and plenty of exercise. And after 6 weeks, the guy going in for physio, nurse comes in and she goes, she said, I was able to close my hand tight, completely tight as normal. And she was completely stunned. She says, I've never seen a person in such a short space of time being able to have full recovery, and especially at your age in your mid-40s, and have the gripping power again in that short space of time. And I was like, oh, yeah, shit, just some of us are unique. And I, of course, not mentioning anything about homeopathy. But then the top of the finger she said to me, if you had actually cut just a couple of millimeters further down and actually taken a bit of the bone, it would have been less painful. But you cut right across the top of your nerves. So it was quite painful, because I said any bit of cold wind at all, I says, the pain travels up the finger, up the arm, and literally into the head. And I'm like, argh! And he'd be just working away with a farm implement, or you're getting into the tractor or whatever, and the top of your fingers touched, or anything cold. And it's just, and I can understand why people are literally hooked on painkillers, because of this nerve injury. Let it be your back injury, let it be whatever injury, sports injury, car accident. And in my situation, the nerves endings here cut. So of course I knew hypernicum. Again, back onto my vet, and I said, listen, I need to I said to the nurse, I said, this pain is horrendous. I said, oh, you can't, there's no painkillers for it, but unfortunately people do. She said, but we say to people 2 winters before you get over it. I said, 2 winters with this pain? That's not going to happen. No. And so she says, well, that's what it is. So I was like, straight away I could think to myself, hypernicum, nerve injury, just keep taking it. So literally all through the summer, that was June, And by September, when the weather was beginning to change again and the wind was turning easterly, literally no pain, nothing, zero. I went through that winter. Didn't even know I had cut the top off my finger. No painkillers, no nothing, zero.
That's amazing. That really is. And recovery again here, I say, it is very, very swift.
I mean, I can honestly say that, and I had said this when I had started off, and when I came back from doing the course in November 17, I said, I'm going to put this into practice. And if I see results, I'm going to share this knowledge with any farmer that's willing to listen to me. And I said to myself that eventually people will start talking. And they'll eventually kind of say to themselves, well, if homeopathy can work on animals, why can't it work on humans?
Pat, there's some very good news that you shared with me, which was that there are now 55, or possibly more now, Irish homeopathic farmers. And, more vets are being trained to use and understand farm homeopathy. So, and I know that you've also been involved with setting up homeopathy at welly level courses in Ireland. So do share. The statistics are very, very good, and we will actually talk about agri-homeopathy after this as well, because I know that you're quite passionate about that too. But do tell about how that came about, and the courses themselves, and the fact that so many Irish homeopathic farmers, so many farmers are now using homeopathy in Ireland.
Well, I suppose when I came back from the homeopathy at Welly Level course in November 17, I was sitting there in Heathrow Airport, and I just said to myself, I'm going back to the island of Ireland, and I will be the only farmer on the island that has this knowledge that I've gained over the past week. And as I said earlier, I'm going to put this into practice, and the farmers are willing to listen. Now, luckily here in Ireland, our government are quietly getting farmers, or letting the opportunity be available to farmers to upskill their knowledge. And there's an organisation called National Organic Training Skill Nets, and they offer courses at a 30% discount. So I contacted them and I said, look, I've done this course. It's amazing. I want to implement it. I want to bring it into Ireland. And your man said, no problem. Yeah, we'd be interested. He said, but I said, there's no use just putting it up in the website. We have to get bums and seats, do a launch, do an information evening. So with the help of Facebook and Instagram, I set up my page, which is now called the Homeopath Farmer. And somebody said to me, don't do recorded videos, do live videos, you get a bigger catchment. And eventually ended up with 60 people at the launch that night. And I actually brought over some of the tutors from the Hall course, and some vets, and myself and another farmer, to talk about how homeopathy has changed their whole perspective of life, changed their herd health and everything else. And out of that evening, at least we got the media time, we got the air time, and we got our first course off the ground in Ireland, which 12 months previously, when I went on the course, the residential course, they didn't know where this was going to lead to. And it led to starting another course in another country. And they turned around, and it was at the time, it's a 3-day course. And that was the first 12, I think it was 12 farmers. And there was also included in the course was, I think, 10 vets, homeopathic vets. So they were just kind of being upskilled in how to approach it from a farming perspective, and be able to talk the talk and walk the walk of farmers. Then in November 19, we ran another course, and again, I think there was something like 12 on that course. And then, of course, unfortunately, COVID hit the following autumn. Things went online, and another organisation then with some of the tutors and the vets from homeopathy at Welly Level went out on their own, and they set up whole health agriculture. And it was more of an online course, self-paced. You learn it in your own time, in your own modules. It's no fixed time. and plenty of backup support. And I decided to, and it was farmers don't go to their books. We don't have the time to go to our books to repertoise a remedy. Oh, there's a cow sick. And you stand there for 20 minutes looking at the cow and assessing the situation and going, and you're losing time, and the cow is losing time. So farmers think on their feet. It's bang, 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 bang. I need that remedy. And the whole health agriculture course teaches you that, because you're thinking on your feet. And you say, this is the remedy I need, bang, 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 and problem resolved, move on, next job. And it's a very solid course with great backup support. I think it's once a month meetings we have on a Thursday. Then you tune into the Zoom call, you have a discussion on what's going on at that time. And they do, and you ask your questions and so on, and saying, look, this is what's going on my farm at the moment. Can you help me? Now you can have also tech support and all that goes on. And there's also the buddy farmers. Now at the moment, I think it's something like 65 are in the WhatsApp group, and that is definitely growing. Internationally, it is growing as well, and they have a fantastic website, wholehealthagriculture.org. And as I said, there's great tutors, great vets on it, and there's a huge amount of time and a huge amount of passion in it as well. And it's gaining traction both in not just Ireland and England. It's also been launched in New Zealand, and hopefully in the coming months, hoping that we'll be able to get the attention of American farmers and American people to talk to their neighbouring farmers in whatever state you come from in America, to say, why not have a look at this to reduce your antibiotic dependency.
That's really motivating and very commendable indeed. Pat, finally, I was going to ask you about agri-homeopathy, and actually this is how I touched base with you. I believe it was when Camilla Scher actually came on the show, and I think you retweeted, or it was on Facebook or something like that, on one of the social media platforms, and we started chatting, didn't we, on and off, and and here we are today. You know, it's great. That journey itself has been quite interesting, and do tell me about your interest with agri-homeopathy and soil.
Well, I suppose with homeopathy and the natural approach to animals, I was kind of going, if this little pill can do this to a cow, what can you do to your land? Because I was beginning to realize that everything is energy. The plants are energy and operating a frequency. They're talking to each other. And that might sound a bit daft, but the science is there. They literally are during a hot day, or if it's going to a drought conditions, literally the plants, the grass is literally screaming at you that I'm under pressure here, I'm stressed. And again, you can give such and such remedies, as I realized. But at the time, I didn't realize this. I wasn't joining the dots together. And I had done another course on microbial farming and introducing microbes back into the soil and getting the chemicals out. So I've dramatically reduced my chemical fertilizer inputs, and instead of going, I dramatically reduced that. And then it was there's a farmer in America contacted me, Pat, and I said, Pat, this woman, Camilla Scher, is doing this agri-homeopathy course. Have a look at it. So I tuned in, and I was utterly gobsmacked. Her method of teaching is just so calm and relaxed and simple. And I just said, that couldn't be possible. But it does. It makes complete sense. Aconite for stress, and again, fear of cold and all that, belladonna for heat, and sol, and all those type of remedies. And literally looking at her pictures and talking about the coffee farmer from Tanzania. So then I was saying it to another vet in January, and literally he said to me that he knows of researchers, homeopathic researchers out there working with farming, that are literally working on 1,200 hectare plots where no chemicals, out in the dry, arid desert, are using homeopathy only to grow crops that will surpass chemical farming.
Pat Aherne, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you on the podcast today, and I've really, truly enjoyed and loved the stories of healing that you've shared with us. And it's just testament to the work that you're doing and also your commitment and passion. And I do hope later this year, when you do get a free moment, I know it's been tricky getting you on this podcast because you're so busy, but certainly I hope, at the end of the year, you can come back and share some of the developments in homeopathy and some more of your experiences.
Oh, yes. I'd be delighted to, Atiq, without a doubt. But can I just mention as well with Homeopathic, it pretty much is a voluntary organisation. A huge amount of work gone into it in the last number of years, and a lot of farmers volunteering their time. Like this, I'm not on my own. There are several other farmers across the world, in New Zealand and UK and Ireland, that are pushing this with other farmers. But it can't run on fresh air and water. And if there's anybody out there willing to give a donation to www.wholehealthagriculture.org, there is a donation button there. They would be greatly appreciated. I can guarantee you won't get a return on your investment, only the sheer knowledge of knowing that you are making the world a better place by educating farmers to do things differently for the greater good of humanity.
Aherne, thank you so much. God bless you, and I very much look forward to seeing you later this year.
And thank you very much, and most certainly looking forward to it, and hopefully with good news stories about homeopathy in the soil.
I do hope you've enjoyed the Homeopathy Health Show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Tune in next time for more things homeopathy, interviews and segments on the healing possibilities that homeopathy can bring you. And don't forget to visit UK Health Radio online at www.ukhealthradio.com to see the many other amazing shows available to listen live and on demand. Or why not download the app from the iOS and Android stores. Until next time, stay safe and take care.